July 17th, 1987. The children in a Christian camp were rounded up and told to pack their essentials. They said, you can't bring everything, bring what you need. They were loaded on buses, and they were waiting for the buses to leave. Suddenly, it starts to rain. And not only rain, but it starts to downpour. Everything starts to flood. The river starts to rise. And the camp counselors realize that they can't get these kids out of here via bus. So they tell the kids, get out of the bus, climb a tree as high as you can, and try to stay out of the water until we can be rescued. The children scatter. They scatter to the closest tree that they can find. They climb the trees, and the water rises. Rescuers did come to rescue the kids, but 10 of those children were unalived, and 33 people were hurt in that natural disaster. That was Camp Mystique in 1987. Skip ahead to July 4th, 2025. Those children didn't even get a warning. They didn't even make it to the bus, and over 100 people have been unalived, with hundreds more injured. With the history of that camp and the lives lost there already due to the same natural disaster, Kerr County, which was the county that Camp Mystique is in, have been advocating for a flood warning system that will help them keep the children safe when they have summer camps and when the river is more apt to flood. In 2017, 30 years after they lost the 10 children at that camp, Kerr County asks for a grant, $1 million grant, that will help them install a new flood system that will ensure that the children that go to that camp remain safe and secure, knowing that if there is a risk of a flood, that they will get a warning because they have a warning system. The project would have installed sirens and gauges that would give a good indication as to when it was time to get the children out and to safety. The grant was denied by the state of Texas. For the children, though, the Upper Guadalupe River Authority, they did offer to help, but they could only offer about 5% of the cost. And because the grant was denied by the state, the rest of the cost would have gone directly on the taxpayers of Kerr County. The people there whose children are at stake resisted that project because they didn't want their taxes to go up. Now, granted, I understand where they're coming from because they should never have had to pay for it. The state with a freaking surplus, who gives more money to the federal government than it takes in, should have kept a little bit of that money to make sure that their own citizens were taken care of. In the grand scheme of things, it was only $1 million. What is your child's life worth? But the people said no, because they didn't want their taxes to go up. Now, they could have tried to get FEMA help for this. FEMA had programs that could allow grants to places who couldn't afford to get early detection systems and things like that, and allow them to get those grants and get those early detection systems. Well, the county commissioners didn't want to go through FEMA because that FEMA was from Obama's administration. So because it was Obama's administration's FEMA policies, they would rather risk their children rather than take money from a black man. Is that what you're telling me? Now, after that, people didn't quite give up. There was a bill in legislation. The bill would boost the warning systems in the entire state. Being that there was a flood in 91 that unalived 13 people, there was a flood way back in 78 that unalived 33 people, Texas really did need more warning systems for their populated areas. So this bill would have taken care of that. This bill would have given sirens, gadgets, and other technology that would have given them the ability to create an emergency response plan, as well as provide grants to these counties who needed flood warning systems like Kerr County did. This would have taken $500 million to complete. That's what they would have allotted for the whole program. Kerr County only needed $1 million of that $500 million. But Republicans in the legislature voted it down, saying that it cost too much. So I ask again, how much are the lives of your children worth? If $1 million could have saved those children, if $500 million could save your state, and you sitting here on a multi-billion-dollar surplus, what really burns my butter about that bill and about the Republicans that voted it down, because they are in control of the House and Senate in Texas, do not get it twisted. The problems in Texas and the fact that none of those problems have been fixed, both with the mass pew-pew unalivings at schools and in public places, and the weather disasters that happen every single year because Republicans refuse to spend any money on infrastructure at all. Republicans are making those decisions. In being the party of fiscal responsibility, they are the party that perpetuates the unaliving of your kids because their money means more to them than your children. And the craziest thing about that bill being voted down is that a representative from Kerr County helped them do it. He voted that bill down. And when asked if he would make the same choice now that lives are lost, he says in hindsight, he might have made a different choice. Why does it have to be hindsight when you can obviously see what is happening? Why does it have to be hindsight all the time with them? Hindsight was 1987 when 10 kids in the same location were unalived. Were their lives not worth enough to you? Were their lives not worth $1 million to prevent further unalivings of other children? Apparently not. Apparently the Republicans do not care about your kids as much as they deem to care about your kids when they're talking about what bathrooms they should be using, what sport your kids should be playing, or when they're forcing you to have one only to let it starve and be unable to go to the hospital because you can't afford it. That's the only time they care about kids. And yet you vote for them. Or do you? The Republicans called an emergency session. And no, the emergency session is not to make sure that they put something in legislation to have an early warning system that could protect future children. No. That's not why they called this session. They called this session so urgently while people are still missing, while bodies are still being pulled from the water, while Mexico had to come over and help and do something that Texas couldn't even do for its own. They're having a meeting about redrawing the districting maps. You heard me right. They had an emergency meeting to redraw districting maps. They're going after 4 seats. Every single one of these seats, Jasmine Crockett included, are people of color. They are specifically targeting people of color by redrawing the maps. That's what they find more important than the lives of your children. Ensuring that your vote does not matter is more important to them because they can read the writing on the wall. They know that people are starting to see them for what they are. Slowly, idiotically slowly, but surely. And they care more about stealing your voice than giving your child their life.